So, welcome to week 2 of building your first Android app, or hopefully, um, well, you may have already done some in the past. But anyhow, what we did last week, I have up on the screen right now. We're building this task management application out throughout the 5 weeks of this class. And what we did last week was to add a task to the task manager. So I can go through, click this button, and say something interesting like this, and it will show up in my simple bulleted list right here. And what we're going to do this week is make this simple bulleted list into a much more useful Android style list with checkboxes and all that sort of stuff that we would expect from a task manager, where we want to do something like manage a list of tasks that may or may not be done. So I'm going to switch over to the slides, and let's talk through what we're going to be doing today. So we're going to look at a new type of activity. So far we've just seen that we can extend an activity, which is sort of like a controller for a screen. But this week we're going to introduce a new sort of a helper activity that Android gives you to better deal with a whole with a screen full of list items and comprised into a list component. And we're going to learn about creating custom views for list items, and we're going to learn about the role of an adapter in providing data for the list, and we'll learn a little bit more about using Eclipse to make you not have to type so much. So what we want to do this week, like I've said, sort of hinted at a little bit, is we want to add a few more capabilities to our task manager. We want to view a list of tasks not just in a bulleted list form like we already have, but as a scrollable list, and we want to be able to mark each one of those complete or not, and we want to allow the user to, as a user, I want to come in and remove completed tasks so I can just look at the ones that I have to do, that I have yet to do. And as we get into the code, we'll see a couple more classes that we haven't run into yet. One is a list view, and that is a component that allows the user to see a list of data that you want to present to them in a sort of familiar form to anybody who has a smartphone. The list activity is the type of controller, like we talked about just a second ago, that makes it easy to control a list view and provide it the data that it needs. And the list adapter is the sort of piece in the middle that makes it all fit together and is responsible for getting the data together and interpreting for the list view what a few interesting things like what the data is for a certain element at a certain position in the list, or getting the view that needs to be displayed for a certain item at a certain position in the list. And then as we go through, I'll show you one more interesting refactoring technique in Android that you can use to not have to go edit your, or open up and find your, and open up your strings XML file every time you want to add a new string to your XML layout or something like that. And that will be a nice time saver.